Greetings, Emmett here from readingforwisdom.com. This is the second episode in our look at the top 10 books that have been recommended by militaries across the world. If you haven't seen the first episode, go back through YouTube, watch that one first of all, and you'll see all the background. In this episode, we're looking at the top five books that have been recommended by militaries across the world for insights into leadership, generalship, command. At number 5, we have Roger Nye's The Challenge of Command, Reading for Military Excellence. Now, this is probably the least well-known of the books, the least well-known in general circles at least, of the books in this top 10. And this reached the top 10 largely because of the amount of US military reading lists that feature it. But this is a really good book. This is a book that helped me in my research into professional reading. And it's a very simple premise. Nye, himself a colonel, or a retired colonel, an officer in the US military, talks through the books that have helped him, the books that he has learnt from other commanders have helped them, and he takes through anecdotes to show how reading helps. The book actually is full of recommended readings and recommended reading texts itself, so it's a wonderful primer. It works on lots of different levels, and it's a work that just is quite insightful. Number 4 on the list, Watercracker. This is a venerable book, first published in 1956 by Field Marshal Sir William Slim. And this book is an enduring classic. It's from the eyes, the ears, the recollection, the memory of a field commander, the man who fought in a very lonely theatre. So while most of the glamour in World War II, and maybe glamour is not the right word to use, but certainly a lot of the attention was focused on various theatres, particularly from a British point of view, North Africa, and then into Normandy in Europe and the Italian campaigns. One of the most overlooked theatres was Burma. What a hell of a war. The British were driven back to the gates of India and then fought and clawed their way back against the Japanese armies, fighting in challenging terrain, challenging conditions, under-resourced, undersupplied. What a hellish war. And this account is really... It's number 4 on our list for a reason. It stands the test of time, and people will say to you that this simply is one of the greatest works of the World War II era written by a senior commander. Highly recommended. So we're now into the top 3. Who's third on our list? Karl von Clausewitz on War. So many books, so many pages, so much discussion has featured on this work. The piece, singular outstanding piece of military philosophy. Masterous work, very difficult work, a very challenging work. In a future show we're going to talk about it in detail, but Clausewitz on War is number 3 for a reason. If you are in the military, if you are interested in military, in strategy, in war, this simply has to be on your bookshelf. One point though, the version that should be on your bookshelf should probably be this edition, the Parrott and Howard translation, and it's full of some wonderful essays inside by people like Bernard Brodie to help you grapple with Clausewitz's unfinished, challenging piece of military philosophy. Von Krieg. Number 2 on our list, what is the book that militaries all over the world, and those in the air, those at sea, and those on land, tell you is the book to read. Face of Battle by John Keegan, his second appearance. Now, I did, when I mentioned Keegan's earlier appearance on the list, I made a few sniffy little comments about him. But actually, this work is truly something special. Keegan established his name with it. He never bettered himself after this book. It's a great read for everybody, I think. It's probably one of the most accessible yet important military books ever written, certainly in the last 40 or 50 years. And what Keegan does is essentially takes a look at certain battles from right back in time through Agincourt, Waterloo, the Somme, to give us a sense, those of us who have never had the misfortune to experience battle, to give an idea of what it was like to be there in those sounds, those smells, those sights that clash against our senses. This is a superb work, and really highly rated by militaries right across the world, and for very good reason. I do recommend picking this one up, owning it, giving it a good old thrashing. Big drum roll, what's number one? There is only one book it could be. The Art of War by the venerable Sun Tzu. It's the oldest book on our list. It's probably one of the oldest books in existence, and of course it still is in existence in its original format. The Chinese, as they're excavating sites and tombs all over China at the moment, are uncovering new versions and new editions of this venerable work. This goes back 2,500 years to the Warring States period. There's still a lot of argument, discussion about whether Sun Tzu actually existed and was a real general. Who cares? This is a work that is a Taoist classic. So it falls neatly into the Taoist philosophical literature from China. Now, beware of this book, because on the surface the book is really simple to read, and I think that's probably why it's been so popular for many years since the first translations came into the European language maybe 300-400 years ago, because on the surface very easy to read, very easy to quote, but actually quite difficult to penetrate, to understand. That said, there is some huge wisdom here. However, this is one book that you've got to be careful about which edition you buy. There are so many editions available that you can end up with a version that really is not so illuminated. This is the Penguin Minford edition, as I call it, and it's a cracker. And it has lots of explanatory essays to give you a background into the age that Sun Tzu was living and fighting and writing in. So there we go. They were the top 10 books that militaries around the world recommend to their own people to read for their development as soldiers, as airmen, as sailors, as commanders, as leaders. Every one of these books, in its own way, should be on your bookshelf if you're interested in military sciences, the military arts. Some of them are easy reads, some of them a lot more challenging. So, if you want to learn more about the research that sat behind these couple of videos, do come over to readingforwisdom.com. Some of the original research papers are all housed there, and they're all free to download. I hope you enjoy reading some of them. And we'll be posting some more videos in the coming weeks. If you like the work we're doing here, please do give us a like, subscribe, and come over to readingforwisdom.com for more information.